All right, welcome back to my channel. On this channel, we discuss scary African stories. If you love contents like that, stay tuned with us. If you don't subscribe. We don't want to scare you. Okay, so today we are talking about the story of the man, or should we call him an entity, that dwelled in a lake in an ancient community. Now, before I go into the story, let me first of all inform you that this is a true life story. This is a story from the people that witnessed or encountered, or should I say, had an encounter with this entity. I use the word entity because I don't have a better word to use in describing this thing or describing it. So like I said, a lot of people from ancient times in that community had sightings. But in modern days, it is said, I quote, people from the community said that it is very difficult to encounter it. Okay, so let's get into the backstory so you'll be able to understand. There is this community. The name of the community, translated from an African language to English, will be ancient town or ancient village, ancient community. This community is one that is feared all around. They are known for the kind of powers they command, the strange things they can do. History have it that people from that community could change from humans to lions and other wild animals. The community is one that when they go for wrestling, you cannot defeat them. They are young men, their back never touches the ground. A lot of people have been to the community trying to liberate them, bring religion, but they all left with madness. They all left with madness. These are few things that happened to people that ventured into that community. It is said that they are witch doctors, native doctors, herbalists, depending on what you know them as. They can travel from their village to as far as India and other parts of Europe. When I mean they travel, they go into their room in their village, the room in their hut, and from there they can get to any part of the world if they want to. So many things that were said about these people. Now, why am I saying these things before I'm going into the story? The story is one that some of you will find it very difficult to fathom. You will find it difficult to understand. But the question is, are we alone in this planet called Earth? Are we alone? Or we have other things that dwell with us, but we don't see them every day? Okay. So in this ancient town, they have 5 families. Every community is splitted into a huge family. And you have sub-family, and it keeps breaking down until it gets to the smallest. But depending on how big the community is, it could be 5 families, it could be 4, it could be 6, even more. This is something that is done in some parts of Africa. In this particular ancient community that we're discussing today, the community is split into 5 big families. And each big family owns their lands. They have the parts of the forest that belongs to each big family. And they also have lakes that belongs to each family. And each of the lakes have different names. Each of the lakes have different days that they do the rituals for the gods, as it is said in ancient times. Each of the lake have a special date in the year where they celebrate, they do the festival, the fishing festival. Because in Africa, we have a lot of festivals. We have the Yam Festival. We have the fishing festival. We have different types of festivals. So in this ancient town, they celebrate each of the lake on a particular day. But before that is done, the elders in the particular family will have to carry out some rituals. They go to the lake alone, no one else. If you're not an elder, you're not a member of that group that is supposed to carry out the ritual, you cannot be there. If you sneak into the forest and try to spy, whatever you see, whatever happens to you, is your business, and it's your family loss. The elders will go into the community, get the drinks that they need. There's a common drink used in West Africa, which is made from the palm tree, a special palm tree that they make what they call palm wine. And they even have a stronger one a spirit. So let me say tequila. Some of you know tequila. The African one is made from a raffia palm. That raffia palm makes two types of drinks. So they get the stronger one. They get the cola nuts and some other things that they need. And they will go into the forest, perform that ritual, pleading for the entity, because each of the lake, it is said that there is an entity dwelling in it. Some of the lakes, the entity takes a female form and possesses one member of the community that comes from the big family that owns that particular lake. The one we're discussing today, the entity takes a form that looks like a man, but the futures and everything else which we will get into doesn't really fit that of a human. All right, I'm giving you all this backstory so you understand fully what we're discussing today. All right, so this particular lake, the name of the lake was given to me, but I will switch it a bit just to keep the privacy of the community and what they believe in and their deity. So we'll call the lake Oyema. Lake Oyema is a very popular lake, one that everyone knows that the entity that dwells in it, that lives in it, is one that is tough, and people that had an encounter could testify. So in this community, we will start with the story of one of the oldest men in that community. It is said that he only agreed to tell that story when he knew that he was going to die soon. So all these years, he kept it to himself, as many others did. Okay, sorry for that short pause. Had an interruption. Okay, so this man, when he was close to his grave, he decided to tell the story of him encountering that thing, or should we say him encountering it. This is how his story went. He said he was on his way to collect woods because that's how he survived. In those days, ancient times, they worked with their hands a lot. Even till today in Africa, a lot of people work with their hands. Give me a short break. I will be back. In ancient times, sorry for the pause, this is what they did. They worked a lot with their hands, as a lot of them were farmers. So on that day, he went into the forest like he always did. But on this fateful day, he made a very big mistake. In that community, earlier I told you that there is a particular day that they carry out rituals. There are days that you cannot go into the forest because it's like that's the day for a particular deity, or is the day for deities, entities, and things that are not human. So the ancient people knew this and respected it, and on those sacred days, as they will call it, everybody stayed home. If you know you do not have water and you have to fetch from, you want to go to the lake, there's a river also, but if you want to go to the lakes or whatever you want to do, you want to collect woods, you want to get food from the farm, you have to go a day before that day. So on that day, everybody stays in the community because it is believed that weird things wander the forest on those days. So what happened with him? He said he had miscalculated the day. He stayed home on the day that he was supposed to go to his farm, go for his job. Now he collects woods. He goes deep into the forest and he collects woods. He sells woods for the fireplace that you can use to cook and grill and all of that. And he also collects woods, that these very strong, like mahogany woods and woods like that you can use to make a table, chair, and things like that. And in those days, there were not many of them that could venture in very deep to get those very strong iron wood, hardwoods, and stuff like that, which was for the brave people. So he said he was going to go and collect some woods on that day. Little did he know that the day before that he stayed at home was the day he was supposed to go. The next day, he said he dressed up, picked up his tools, and started going. He got to this particular road that leads to that lake. He said he wanted to go through there because there's this trees that brings out a sap that is used to make like plastic stuffs and all of that. So he wanted to check because he also had a farm like that. But it is on the same path that leads to the lake. You have to pass by the lake to get to his rubber farm. So he went, walking out from the community, getting to the entrance, the road that leads into the forest. But this part of the forest, there's a part of the forest where this particular Oyema Lake is. So he went in. He said something was strange from the beginning. Immediately he left the main community road, entering the thicker part of the forest. That he could tell that everything was not normal. Him being a forest man, being someone that feeds from the forest, so he's always in the forest. He said he could tell that all was not well, but he could not pinpoint what the problem was. He said there were no sounds of birds. If you're an African, you know that that is weird. In an African forest, no sound, no noise, nothing. Lots of birds, animals, name it. Even if you're not an African, if you've been to Africa, if you even watch all these programs where they show you the African forest and things like that. It's like saying you're going to the Amazon forest and no noise, no sound, nothing. You didn't see anything, not even a lizard running across your path. That's how he described it. But he said, even with these weird occurrences, it did not for a second occur to him that he had miscalculated. That was something that you cannot. You have to be extremely careful when you calculate those special days that is left for deities and weird beings and things that are not human and it to wander the forest. So he said his mind never went there. So he just kept walking, thinking, okay, maybe I'm still at the beginning part of the forest, so it will make sense if I'm not hearing, even though it's not always like that. I've never experienced it this way. But he said the forest was dead. The forest was dead. The quietness of the forest, no wind. The trees were not, like moving with the wind, and you hearing all those cricket-like sounds and things like that. He said nothing. You could hear a pin drop. But he kept going. Because to him, he said walking in the forest, he has encountered several weird things. So at this point, he's almost used to feeling weird sometimes. Because sometimes it is said that you will feel some type of way when certain things are around you. But you looking around the forest, you cannot see them or see anything. But you can feel it that something is around you. Something is close by, like someone is watching you. That type of feeling. You feel like someone is watching you, but you cannot see. So he kept on walking. He was getting close to the lake. He didn't think anything of it because, of course, to him, this was a day that I could go into the forest. It was not the special day. So he was just walking, approaching the lake, expecting to just get to the lake, maybe get some water to drink, and then continue to his rubber farm, and then straight up to where he's going to collect his wood as usual. What he has done a million times. So he said when he got closer to the lake, he could feel like his head was 10 times bigger, that he could no longer hold his head. His head was just kind of wobbling. A weird feeling, he just knew that no. But he said at that point, he was already deep into the forest, that he was not willing to listen to his body, turn and go back. And because he didn't think that that could be that special day, he didn't retreat. He kept approaching the lake. And he said, all of a sudden, there was a very shiny stuff piercing his, like he couldn't look at first. And then he was thinking, even if the sun is hitting the lake, it's not supposed to be this bright in the lake. So he just kept, covering his eyes, like trying to make way, and he kept going. When he could see the lake, when he could see the full view, now the lakes in this community, they are massive. For you to understand, the festival period, the whole community goes into the forest. They build huts around the lake. They bring music. They make it a community for about 7 days of fishing, party, grilling, eating, and it just continues for 7 good days. So it's a massive lake. So when he was in full view, he said he could not believe what that shiny thing was. It was a golden chair. Like, to him, Looking at it, it was just, it was unbelievable. It's royal. There is a way the royal chairs where the kings in Africa sit, there's a way they make it. Most of them are made from strong, good woods. But they make it in a very dramatic way that when you see, you know this is a chair for a royal. And he said, seeing a golden royal chair sitting on top of the lake, like floating, like it was just there, like it was on the ground. It wasn't like that was a lake. He said he was cleaning his eyes. He could not believe what he was seeing. And he said he stood there looking. And that was when what happened next, he could never ever believe. If anyone had told him, he won't believe it. He said, as he was still looking at the golden chair on the lake, he was trying to make sense of how a chair would sit on top of water floating, like someone had placed it there, like someone was sitting on it and left it there. As he was still trying to make sense, and he said the beauty and the artwork of this particular chair on the lake is one that he has never seen in all the communities around his community. And as far as his leg has traveled, he has never seen a chair as beautiful as that one. So, as he was still standing there, lost, looking at the couch or the chair on top of the lake, the water is calm. Now this is a lake that there are fishes, there are, every living thing that dwells in fresh water. You can find the snakes, gators, things like that, like anything that you can find that is in the forest that can go into the water and come. The water was just silent, not moving. When the wind blows, you can see the surface of a lake or a river moves with the wind. The leaves drops from the trees and they float. But he said nothing was moving, everything was quiet. And then it came out. The entity. The human looking, we cannot call it a person. It looked like a man. It was in a man's form. He said the shape of the body looked like him, like a man, came out from the water and sat on the golden chair. It was not as if this was happening on water. It was as if it was happening on land. How you would just majestically sit on your couch in your home. And he said he could not move. He could not, like he couldn't move from that spot where he was standing and staring at the couch. And this thing, he said, had the height of a giant. That is how I can describe it to you so you understand. He said he has never seen a person as tall as the thing he saw, and it sat on the chair. comfortably on the lake, crossed its legs, and the ankle had these, there are, I don't know what those things are called, and I don't know the English name, I just know that they have African names for it. These are special stuffs that they prepare, and they make it for people that dances. They put it on their leg. If you've seen African traditional dances, you would have seen those things on the legs. It makes a lot of noise, like chinning, chinning, chinning. So then it moves to the beats of the drum and the music and all of that. With Africa, we have different types of attires that we use for dancing. One of those are those stuffs that we put on the leg, but they have different types. They have the ones that shake and makes a whole lot of noise, and the ones that don't shake. They have the ones that you put on your arms here, here, before you use the white native chalk to do the design, the artwork all over your body and all of that. This thing had that stuff full on the legs, on the arms, filled with golds. His neck filled, you could not even see the neck of this thing. And this thing sat there on the lake, looking at him. And he stood there frozen. Then he said, it dawned on him what he had seen. He had seen the thing that dwells in that lake. The thing that the elders used to go a day before to go and appease and plead for it to leave the lake so they can do the festival. They will fish for 7 days, party and have fun. Everything will be normal. But it is said that if the elders do not do that, you can go to that lake, cast your net from today till the next year. You will not even catch a tiny, not even the egg of a fish. But when that ritual is carried out, and then they come the next day to start building their huts and making tents, bringing the canoe boats. We have what we call the canoe. It's made from wood. So everybody brings their canoe into the forest, put it in the water so they can drop their nets and fish. And the women, they have the baskets that they use for fishing. These festivals still go on till now in Africa. They still do these fishing festivals, and they are very interesting festivals. But anyway, like I was saying, he said, then it dawned on him what he had seen. Immediately, him being a forest man, he knew what to do. He said, he looked around. He picked, there are special leaves. All these herbs, when you move around in the forest, this is just a leaf, this is just a leaf. But in Africa, every plant has its job. Every plant is for something. You have the one for the snakes, for the poisonous snakes, that you rub it like so. When you get bitten by a snake, and you drop the liquid in, it neutralizes it. If someone that knows the leaf is not around and you get bitten by a snake, before you get to the hospital, you're dead. So, as a forest man, he knew the leaf to use to plead with what he has seen, because that or it was not supposed to be seen by regular people, only by the elders that carries out the ritual. They are the only one that knows anything concerning that. So he got the leaves that they use for spirits and anything that is not humans and all of that. And he started the incantation and started pleading. And he said, this thing loves praises. As he started pleading, he could see the reaction of this thing that was still at this point seated on the chair that is floating on the surface of the water. So he did the incantation in African language. And when he finished, this thing and the chair went back inside. And in his words, some of the things he said in his incantation was, I am sorry. I didn't mean to. For me to see you, it means today is your day. It simply means I have innocently miscalculated. I plead that you let me return to my family in one piece, as I am here to seek for my daily bread and care for my family. I plead that your anger don't boil over. I plead that you let me go in peace. And I also plead that you let your anger subside. And he said so many more and showered praises on it. That's how it went down. And he said he never completed his journey. And he said he never completed his journey. From there, he went straight back home. He never said a word to anyone. But when he went back into the community, people that saw him knew he was coming from the forest. And he said, everyone stared at him. Everyone stared at him with a very strange look. Everyone looked at him in a very strange way. From that day on, he never made a mistake. I will end the story here. And the next time we will talk about the lady that was not from that community, but was married into that very community. Her own encounter with this same thing and how she met it. That will be the story when we will share and talk about the second part of the story. Thank you very much for watching. I would have loved to put it in this video, but as you can see, I'm a mom. I have a little one, and she just woke up. When I tell such stories, I want it to be as quiet as possible. That's why it takes me longer time to put out videos, because I can't find the best time to tell my story. Thank you very much. This is my African scary mystery.